What's good, YouTube? My name is Mary Kay and welcome to Mary Kay Confidential. Today's video is all about lock budding. So if that is a topic that interests you, please stay tuned. Now guys, if you are anything like me, when you started your locks or if you were about to start your locks, you're doing a ton of research and you want to know everything there is to know about starter locks and specifically about the budding process, because the budding process is when you know that your locks are actually forming. When I started, I could not get enough videos or information on different websites about lock budding. Like, it was my number one thing. I wanted to know everything there was to know about budding. Not only do you want to know the mechanics of budding, but you're excited because you're starting your process and you know that when you start budding, like, it's really on and popping. There are a few things that I learned along the way that are helping me with my budding process. I am about 4 months into my locks and I am about roughly 50 to 60% budded. Some locks have budded more than others, some have barely budded. So your hair is not going to all lock at the same rate. Now, the first thing I have to show you is more of a visual aid. Now, if you're anything like me, I have to see things. Like, I need to see it. And even though I saw a lot of people showing their budding process, I wanted more. I just needed to know the mechanics of it. I'm not a loctician, so this is just me learning on my own how to take care of my locks. I'm going to show you a few pictures. I'm going to do a split screen and I'm going to explain each picture. Now guys, don't laugh at my visual aid, okay? But I feel like once I show it to you, if you don't know much about budding, it will help you further understand the budding process and what to expect from your locks. All right guys, so here's picture number 1. Now, I know you're looking at the paper like, what are these two straight lines? Like, why am I looking at this? The two straight lines represent your starter coil. Now, when you start, your coils are going to be a little slim, and over time as they mature, they're going to thicken up, which is what the budding process is all about. In picture number 2, you now see that same starter coil, but now you see little blue vertical lines on the page. Those little blue vertical lines represent your hair shedding. Now, your hair actually sheds every single day, but when it's in its loose format, it's normally going to come out as you comb your hair or you brush your hair, or it may actually just fall to the ground or on your pillow. Well, you should be wearing a bonnet, so it shouldn't be falling on your pillow, but it should be shedding every day. But now that your hair is in that coil, it's going to get trapped inside of the coil, because your starter lock is pretty much resembles a donut. Like, there's a hole in the middle. A coil is hollow in the middle and it needs to fill up and bulk up to become that mature lock. So those blue lines represent the hair that's shedding. Now in picture number 3, now you see horizontal red lines and they're kind of intersecting with the blue vertical lines. That represents your starter coil attaching to those shedded hairs, or the shedded hairs attaching to the starter coil, however you want to look at it. But it's starting to intersect, to intertwine, and to tangle up, which is what you need your hair to do to form into the lock. Now picture number 4 represents the budding process at its peak. This is what you've been waiting on. The green curves represent the little peas in the pod, as it's referred to, or the start of the budding process. So when your hair starts to bud, it's going to bulge out a little bit in different sections, but not all smooth and not all at the same time. Now, I need you to understand that during this part, you're going to experience a lot of frizz, and you just gotta roll with it. Like, it's part of the process. The frizz is how the lock is formed. So those green curves represent the hair actually forming into the buds. And you'll be able to actually, well, mine have kind of budded a lot at this point. I try and find a clear one for you, but you'll be able to feel, and of course, because I want to show you one, I can't find one. Like I can feel them, but they're not as visible anymore. Because as your hair continues to bud, it will start to smooth out. Any other time I could find one to give you a nice example, but because I want to give you an example, of course I can't find one. And finally, picture number 5 represents the lock after it has matured, after it has went through the budding process. You can still see the original 2 vertical lines representing your starter lock, but you also see the blue lines where your hair shedded, the red lines where your starter coil attached to the shedded hair, and then it began to bubble out, which represents the green curves or the peas in the pod or the actual gold that you've been waiting on for the budding process. And finally, you see the 2 new vertical lines representing the mature lock. That's how the lock goes from being little slim little coils to now being expanded into full mature locks. So that is the visual. See, I told you, just stick around for a minute, just bear with me for a minute. I was gonna show you, okay? So, comment down below if you feel like you know the budding process a little bit better now due to that visual aid, okay? So I'm gonna give you 2 kind of insider tips when it comes to the lock budding process. Number 1, even when your locks mature, your hair never really stops budding. As your hair grows in at the root, it forms into that lock, but it needs to bud in order to be as thick and mature as the rest of the lock. So it actually never stops budding. And locks actually bud in both directions. When your hair first starts to bud, it will bud typically closer to the root. So let me find a good. So when you get your first bud, it's normally going to be somewhere up in here. As your hair continues to bud, it will bud down this way, but as your hair continues to grow, you will have to bud that way as well. So the hair actually buds in both directions. Now I'm going to turn around and give you a little better view so you can really see the difference between what's budded and what's not. All right, so hopefully I'm in the frame and hopefully you can see my hair very well. Now, if you notice, there are parts of the hair that are still a little bit shiny toward the end. And then there are parts of the hair that's a little more frizzy or kind of a little bit more of a dull color. Where you see the dull color is where the hair is budding. Where you see it shiny are the parts of the hair that have not budded yet. Now, as my hair continues to bud, it will all take on the same form and no longer look like the 2 different textures going on. But you can definitely see the 2 different textures within the locks where they are budded and where they have not budded. Now here's a good one to show you. Like this one, I can feel that from here up is budded, but from here down is not budded. Whereas I have some locks that are almost completely budded, like this one's budded all the way to here. So, and again, I apologize if some of this is not in the frame, but just try to give you a good sense of lock budding. Now I only just wear my hair down for the most part, or as you can see, I'll pin it. There's only a couple of bobby pins in my hair. Other than that, it's completely loose. All right, guys, I want to show you about 5 comparison photos of my personal budding progress. This first picture is from day 1, April the 24th, 2020 versus June the 8th. This was a wash, but no retwist. Now this picture, the first one, is also from the first day, April the 24th versus August the 1st. This is also about the same time frame. This is day 4 of locks, April the 28th versus August the 1st. As you can see, they look completely different. And here's more of a close-up. This is from May the 6th on the left versus August the 13th on the right. As you can see, they're getting a little thicker. And this is also from that same time, May the 6th to August the 13th. All right, so you got a chance to see my locks on day one compared to what they look like now. So you can see that the budding process, it really is that serious. Like it's moving right along. I'm almost 4 months into the locks. Now, everyone's hair is different. Even though I'm 4 months in and I'm about 50 to 60% budded, that doesn't mean that your hair is going to bud at the same rate. Some individuals, their hair may not even start budding until now. It just depends on your hair and your texture, and you really can't compare your budding process to someone else. Now, the visual aids, I hope that kind of shows you what to expect the process to be like, but your process is going to be different from mine or anyone else's. And I am actually very surprised at how fast my hair is budding. It's like as if it's saying thank you for finally locking it and stop wearing it in all those kind of crazy styles that I used to wear. But all in all, I do hope that this video gave you a little bit more information and that you feel more comfortable getting into your starter locks and knowing exactly what to expect during that budding process. But keep in mind that your hair is yours. So if your hair does not start budding after 4 weeks, even if it takes 6 months to start budding, you hang in there. Your hair is going to eventually bud and it will eventually lock. In the words of Ayanla, do the work. If you do the work, it will reward you, okay? Over time, that hair will lock up. Now, I do hope you enjoyed today's video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.